Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Tim Ash, the CEO of Site Tuners and chairperson of the Conversion Conference. I'm very excited to have my buddy Barry Feldman on today. I know he's got an action-packed hour for you, so let's just get started. We at Site Tuners are here to only do one thing, and that is to get your website visitors to act once they get to the website or the landing page. Conversion rate optimization. Not surprising that we really care a lot about what Barry's going to speak about because of that. We work with companies all over the world, have since 2002. You may recognize some of the larger clients that we worked with as well as some of our mid-sized ones. We work across all industries, e-commerce, B2B, lead gen, you name it, we've done it. And our services are essentially aimed at helping you make more money with your landing page or your website. And that includes a number of things, including, of course, split testing, conversion-focused redesigns of your website, or teaching you and your own organization how to do conversion rate optimization better. Now, just a few quick logistics notes. Yes, we are recording today's session, so you will get a follow-up email either today or tomorrow at the latest with a link to the full recording. At the end, we're going to have a short Q&A, so if you have a burning question, please use the question tab in the GoToMeeting control panel to type in your question. We'll be keeping an eye on it. We'll be answering some of those by text during the event, and then I'll pitch a few to Barry at the end. Please tweet the crap out of this. You can see Feldman Creative, Site Tuners as our hashtags, and for this particular webinar, the subjects are web copy, copywriting, and CRO, which you'll also see in the lower right part of each slide there. So without further ado, I want to introduce my buddy Barry Feldman. All of the bio stuff, as you can see, is here on this slide. Barry's a really smart guy, knows a lot about copywriting, podcasting, speaking, communicating with your audience. What you probably don't know about him is he's also a rock and roll aficionado, a big lover of dogs, and just came out with a new book, which is called SEO Simplified for Short Attention Spans. Now, I confess I haven't read it because I have an extremely short attention span, so it was a little too long for me, Barry. But Barry, welcome. Say hello to our audience, and I'll get you right into your presentation.
All right. Hi. Thanks, Tim, and thank you for attending today. A lot of nice things were said about me, and the plug of my book. We're going to have to tie Tim down and just make him read that thing. It's in print. It's less than 100 pages. So,
okay.
All right. So Tim mentioned that yeah, my background is copywriting, and you know, you're only good at that these days if you're in tune with the way things work online. And so we're going to talk about copy and conversion, and to me, I wrap that up in this theme that is today's webinar called the comfort zone, your customer's comfort zone. I maintain that you know, we live and die by it, and so I'm about to show you what I mean. I have a lot of stuff. I'm going to go fast, like Tim said. You'll find a bunch of tweetables in here. So to quote Tim, tweet the crap out of what you see, but don't take notes because you can have this. You can have this puppy later, and there's other resources too that I can show you that are sort of long-form versions of the slides you're about to see. So I start by asking you this: how do you feel? I think it's a great question, and it's not something that you sort of, you know, mentally bring to the forefront and ask yourself. It's more of the subcontext, of the psychology of what happens when you're doing something or attending something or going somewhere for the first time, right? Like a website. And so here you are. You know, maybe you've never been to a webinar before, maybe you've never been to a Site Tuners webinar before, maybe you don't know who I am. For one reason or another, I think the answer to this question, much like when you arrive at a landing page or a website, is you're feeling anxious, right? You're probably not holding your wallet, you know, anxious to or eager to share your credit card information right away, and you're probably not in buy mode, you're in research mode, and your finger's probably pretty close to the back button, and that obviously is the opposite of what we want when we talk about conversion or CRO. So the moral of my story here, so to speak, and the theme of the presentation at large is discomfort is the mother of all conversion killers. And we see a bed of nails here juxtaposed with the slide a couple slides ago where we saw nice, comfortable pillows. We want people to feel comfortable and make this experience, whether it's their home page, landing page, about page, any page, with the entry page, a good one so that they're comfortable enough to take a seat and spend some time with us.
Well, Barry, quick question for you, if I could. The notion of comfort in marketing, we're always told to make people uncomfortable, or they won't move off of their butts and do anything. So, if you could square that circle for me, I'd appreciate it.
Ooh, well, I can't take issue with that. I think we are going to sort of jar them into taking action, and I am about to do that. But I think if they feel anxious, so maybe we have
okay. So you don't want to make them feel anxious for no reason at all. Gotcha.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of examples throughout this presentation of things that do make them feel anxious. In fact, this is organized into 7 chapters, and the 7 chapters are causes of discomfort. And so ultimately, I think you make a good point that we want to introduce new ideas to them and get them to sort of change their world. You'll probably have a little counterpoint with the thing I'm going to say next. This will be interesting. It's a bit of hang with me. So whose job is it to make you feel comfortable? Well, we go to web pages to read, and typically we read a lot. The more complicated the buying decision, the more we read. So the copywriter, in my mind, becomes the chief conversion officer and so much more. The copywriter's your tour guide and your instructor and your concierge and your maitre d', and possibly even the sales clerk, as sales and marketing tasks become blurrier in the age of online marketing, where prospects spend so much time doing research before they actually reach out in a traditional way and accept a meeting or a demo or some sort of sales pitch. So here's where it gets interesting, and that's because Site Tuners right underneath their logo calls themselves conversion rate optimization experts. And so I challenge the idea, and this is just really for psychological purposes to put you in the mindset that I want you for, that do we really convert people? And if you look up the definition, which we have here, it says, I've underlined the key things. It says we change, turn, or transform people. And my question is, is that really what we do? I think, from a marketing point of view, perhaps, right? We transform them from a stranger into a prospect. We've got their email, or through lead nurturing, we transfer them from a prospect into a buyer. However, as a writer, what we do, this definition feels a little sketchy to me. Do we really change people? Well, I already said that. I think what we really do, and the reason that slide has that button there, is we try to press their hot buttons. And so, for example, this is a great example, but real quickly, to put you in the mindset of typical marketing scenarios, like a dating site, for instance. Is it our job as marketers to convince you that you want to date, or that companionship is good? Obviously not. We already have that desire. When we're there, our job is to get you to to date, to move forward and convert, so to speak, at our dating site here and now. Another example of virus software. Is it the job of the website that promotes the antivirus software to tell you that viruses are bad or that computer security is good? Obviously not. It's the job of them to get you to be interested in their product here and now. And so this is a classic advertising example that's become older than time now. It's been going on for quite a while, and it actually went away, and Vegas suffered sales losses, and so it's back. And you're probably very familiar with it. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I throw this slide up to show you. This is an example of appealing to a desire that already exists, right? So Las Vegas is not, while you might make a case of sort of promoting, misbehavior, Sin City, staying up all night, doing things that you normally wouldn't, they're not really saying you should do that. They're saying you should do it here. You should do it now. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And so my big buildup here is that conversion from a copywriter's point of view, as you prepare to do your job, is getting your customer to agree this is the time and place to take action. And circle back to the story I'm going to tell you, you need to get your customers into a comfort zone, because when they don't feel good, they're gone, which might ultimately be, the answer to Tim's question. and we are sort of talking semantics here, but in the copywriting field, you examine psychology. It's all about psychology. And so, like I said, there's 7 chapters of this story, and I'm going to blast through them and show you lots of examples of websites and landing pages and some before and afters. And we start with confusion, which I think is your first and your worst nemesis when it comes to conversion copywriting. And the key to overcoming it is clarity. How do you do that? You write a clear headline, the first thing that people see when they get to your landing page. And so I'm going to show you an example first of a company I feel didn't do that. Now, of course, you're going to see headlines in a lot of different forms, and sometimes, though you might not think of a tweet as a headline, you're going to see the headline of something, a blog post or a white paper or an ad or what have you, probably a landing page. And that exposure might come to you from social media, it might come to you from search, it might come to you from an email, it might come to you from a referral. The point I'm trying to make here is that this thing that you clicked, in one form or another, is call to action / headline, or the various things it might be otherwise, such as a tweet, has some keywords and it has a key idea. And so to keep this super simple, I'm a bit of a Twitter maniac, and if Tim didn't mention it and you want to ask me a question about this presentation afterwards, I'm at Feldman Creative on Twitter. And so here on Twitter, I guess a few months back, it looks like March, at the top of the stream was a Twitter ad, and it says the smarter, simpler CRM. It's not the most interesting ad I've ever seen, but Twitter's all about brevity, and so they got to the point, and they did a pretty good job of communicating to me we're going to talk about CRM, and hopefully this company is going to simplify it. So I click, and below in the second half of the slide, I show you what I see when I get to their landing page. And I don't feel that I made a good connection or they made a good connection, and I don't feel that they've achieved clarity. In fact, I don't even feel that I'm on the right page. The only clue here that I didn't get lost and go to the wrong landing page is the little green Q in their logo bug, which doesn't even match the Twitter thing. You can sort of recognize it if you're thinking about it. But while I'm in this desktop environment, suddenly it's a totally different desktop. It's a different point of view. It's obviously a different photo shoot. It doesn't say CRM. It doesn't say simplicity. It doesn't say anything meaningful, really. Sorry, Relate IQ, but this headline, everything you need and nothing to get in your way, is very confusing to me. And though it wouldn't have been a home run, at the very least it should have said everything you need to simplify CRM, and nothing to get in your way, so that I do make this connection.
Yeah, so the first impression we get is also visual, and the two are distinctly different visual styles. One has kind of a dark, cluttered photo, ironically. The other one has a very clean desktop in a tan wood finish, so they don't even line up that way.
Yeah, it's like they lost their photo, and so this is that makes a great segue to how to do it right here. Same scenario. The advertising medium is Twitter. It's a Twitter ad, so those are typically at the top of your Twitter stream, and they have that little yellow arrow that you see at the bottom, promoted by Domo. So you're looking at an ad, and here we have a black and white photograph, and their tweet says something about spreadsheets, and their image says something about spreadsheets, and they want me to learn more. It says, still using spreadsheets? ? How spreadsheets are messing with your bottom line. All right, I'm in. Sounds good. I click. And now I go to the bottom of my slide, and it's not the exact same photo, but it's the exact same person, I think, and we're still sticking with, sort of the modality or flavor of photograph here, which is this, semi-transparent black and white thing, guy in a white starched shirt, same exact headline and a nice clean landing page that gets to the point. And so, I've used a lot of before and afters and bad and good to show you, I think, what is probably one of the most important concepts I'm going to tackle here today, that you need to connect the before with the after, right? Or otherwise, in comes the discomfort and the click, the bounce, the back button, all that stuff. And then to wrap up this chapter, I warn you also to watch your language, meaning watch your use of industry jargon. Probably one of the bigger mistakes copywriters make, and you get to this like gobbledygook and marketing bull, and I have some examples down below, and the first set of examples are just sort of those like things that executives can agree to in roundtable situations when everybody's playing the role of copywriter, and you talk about state of the art or some sort of throwaway term, and then marketing bull like executing real world operational strategies to propel innovation. Yeah, I didn't even make that up.
My word for this stuff is content-free content.
Yeah. So you're going, all right. A lot of big words. Everybody really loved them. It only took us, 6 meetings to come up with it, and it doesn't differentiate your company in any way. It could have been the tagline for any company. All right, chapter 2, distraction. Definitely something that we don't want to be guilty of is sort of derailing the train when somebody's here and they're excited and they're thinking about a topic, such as, the business intelligence solutions that Domo sells, or the, what was the other example, the CRM that Relate IQ sells. And so distraction, I'm going to admit here before I get into copywriting that probably more often than not, the guilty party for distracting you when you first get to our website is the designer who's put too much in your path and too many choices and too many elements. But what can you do as a writer, like every contributor to the process of making a landing page or any first-time web experience seem clean and simple and comfortable, is to focus. Keep it simple, overcome distraction by focusing. An effective web page has one job to do, right? We all agree on that. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that job is, but you have to know. There's going to be a lot of different jobs for a lot of different web pages, but when you make it have more than one job, you run the risk of failing to get the conversion. And so the focus that is your strategy for overcoming distraction is to keep it simple and keep it singular. So here's some examples of that. First, I have Shopify. I have a few of these, and my notes make it so that they come in out of order. Pardon me here. All right, so look at this. Shopify landing page. Get the job here, as we just discussed. It has one job. Its job is to get the form filled, right? They're going to, like a lot of SaaS companies, they're going to allow you to try their product. And so it's free, and another thing that we could be talking about, and we will, is removing risk. But right here, to get to the point and to not have distractions, once again, I don't know what it is about coffee cups and desktops, but they're the leading props, I think, in landing pages these days. We get here and it says, use Shopify to create your online store. There's no confusion, and there's no distractions, and it's not the least bit mysterious what they want me to do. They want me to start my 14-day trial, and it's not the least bit mysterious how I do that. So ultra simple, and a great headline that does not let cleverness get in the way of clarity, and there's nothing in the way of to distract me. Now, a question that almost always comes up when I'm in a landing page mode and writing these for clients is, we want to put more there. Is that a bad thing? And I think it's not. That's as simple as the Shopify we just saw. You could have a landing page. I probably am not the biggest supporter of the old-fashioned envelope stuffer one, that scrolls and goes on forever, and it has highlights and testimonials, and if you act now and all that stuff, the infomercial landing page. But if every line on there is meaningful, you can convince me that that's a good way to go too. But what I show you here, I think, is a good example of building your case. It's still pretty obvious here with this Fresh Desk example. What they sell, they sell ticketing, and the benefit of it is going to be reducing steps, like a lot of software. It says kill the chores, and it's pretty obvious what they want me to do. They've thrown some social proof at me. That's a good touch, and their form is right there. It's not hard to find. It's not mysterious what the next step is, but it's not as simple as Shopify's landing page either, is it? There's 4 sub-chapters. And they've introduced that in a very nice way, and they're building their case. And so I think they're doing the inverted pyramid thing, as we talk about in public relations and copywriting, where the points are made in the order of importance. If I don't get to the last one, fine. That's the real job here is to get me to fill out the form. But there are 4 subpoints that are presented with a nice clean icon, separate subheads, and short little copy bits that mean something to me if I wind up reading them. And then once again, sort of logo-rama, trusted by these companies, which are our clients. So a very nice way to build your case. And so therefore, I conclude here with what I think is tweetable. Write what needs to be written. I like to say this, and I've been quoted saying this before, don't count characters, but make every character count. right? So if you're a conversion copywriter and somebody's arguing with you that you've written too much, they might be right and they might be wrong. You got to go back and look at it with a discriminating eye and say, is this necessary? Does this forward the cause? Chapter 3 is apathy. What is apathy? Apathy is a lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. And apathy might set in at any step along the way if your pitch begins to feel optional. So make sure that nothing feels optional, and nothing feels less than urgent, and nothing feels irrelevant. I love this topic, and I went nuts, I suppose, with 5 steps through it with this little mini infographic I built. And so I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E, and talk about how each one of these, application, benefit, context, differentiation, and emotion, are strategies for overcoming apathy. Now you're going to start to see here, and I admit that a lot of what I'm presenting in this 45 minutes overlaps, but that's okay. It's all about making people comfortable enough to take action and convert, as we call it. So A is for application. A selling proposition articulates how your offer applies to the reader's needs. We talk about unique selling propositions so much now in online marketing that it's almost come to mean the headline. And so, I'm not going to bother objecting to that. A lot of times when a company struggles to express themselves well on their homepage or landing pages, there is not consensus on what the benefit is, what the story is, what makes the company unique. And so if you do not understand your application, you can't simplify it into a single sentence, that speaks to the reader's needs, you're not ready to start building web pages. And so here's a nice cheat sheet for getting ready, and that is answering the question, what's in it for me? And this lesson goes back to, oh, I'm not going to go there. That gets into my age again. Let's say this lesson gets back to the beginning of my career when I started taking classes in advertising and writing, where the instructor went to the front of the room and he said, all right, you're stuck. You need to write a headline. How do you get started? And he wrote, how to blank. And I love this exercise, and I've been using it to explain to people how to get a benefit statement together ever since then, all those years. And so I love this exercise because you have to answer the question, what's in it for me? You can't put a feature in that blank, okay? And a very simple example, let's say we just invented the remote control, right? You can't put how to remote control in that blank. That's a feature. It doesn't make sense, and it's not compelling. But you can put how to change the channel or the volume without getting off of your couch. And that is a benefit. And so that's the lesson here, that B is for benefits. When you're overcoming apathy, you don't speak about your company. You speak about your reader and how you can help them. What's in it for me? Here's a great example of a company that did just that, with as clear as an example of how to write a how-to headline and a selling proposition all in one on a landing page. Imagine that they had the exercise I just showed you, this company BidSketch, that apparently accelerates the process of creating client proposals, and they said how to, and that was up on the whiteboard, and somebody wrote in that blank, create professional client proposals in minutes. Beautiful, right? And as is often the case with how-tos, then we go back and we scratch out the how-to, and it's even more powerful. C is for context. Put yourself in the reader's shoes. This is a tip, I guess, that applies to absolutely everything when it comes to copywriting. And don't be afraid to disqualify readers. There's an old expression in advertising, when you turn some people off, you turn some people on. And to simplify that, you simply can't be everything to everybody. And so a great way to battle apathy is to say, you're in the right place if, right? So in other words, you can also be in the wrong place, right? And so you're turning some people off. You want them to go away. You want to convert the people whose problem you can solve. And so I'm calling that context in the context of my ABCDE thing. Okay, so D is a difference. What can you deliver that makes you unique and unlike everyone else? Yours obviously is not the only solution of its kind. SiteTuners is not the only company that does conversion rate optimization services. Barry Feldman or Feldman Creative is not the only copywriter choice you have in the world.
Not? Can't believe it.
Yeah, sorry. So hopefully there's something different about you, and hopefully that comes through in your marketing, and that's the copywriter's job to push you such that you're not a parody product. And finally, E is for emotions. Tap into the pleasures and pains of your reader with power words. Those are listed if you do a search for that. I didn't do that in this presentation. Those are all over the place. Those like couple hundred power words, which I think is a good thing, particularly for beginning copywriters to go. They get a page together and then return to it and see that if your language is as powerful as can be. So real quick. I want to give you an example. This is not as fresh as it was when I first did this presentation, but I think it still works great. Hopefully it's still online at the home page of this client, which is called Vendemore. They're a Swedish company in the account-based marketing business. And they had a real me headline that I didn't like, and the client agreed we should start to experiment with. And so I wrote this, and this became their homepage, at least then, and hopefully now, and it says, "Become the marketer your sales team loves." Subhead, learn how to invest your marketing money precisely where it will generate revenues. So the context here is marketing. We're talking to marketers. The difference here is they help you focus on your budget, and the emotion here should be pretty obvious. It's love. I think it's an interesting idea that, marketers are often unloved or feel unloved, and they're often disliked actually by sales. And so an account-based marketer should become the marketer that your sales team loves. So that's an example of the C, D, and E of my apathy chapter. So let's move on. Where are we on time? When I'm in full screen here, I don't know the time.
We're right on the half hour. We're doing great.
Okay. All right, boredom is chapter 4 here. You can't bore people into buying things. I've been saying that one for quite a while too. And boy, how often are we bored when we're online? How often are we bored when we're interacting with any media? So I wrote here what I believe is kind of a cute little tweetable if it fits. It says, "If attention is the web's golden goose, boredom is its rotten egg." So how do you overcome boredom? That's a pretty long list, and I guess I'm gonna force myself to read a slide to you here, because this is a little cheat sheet of how to make it fun. And let's jump to the ending first here and remember who you're talking about, right? Because if you go to a boring web page, chances are it's about a company, it's about a brand, it's about a product, it's about a service. And we're simply not that emotional or not that interested in brands and companies. And so that the companies that struggle here with landing pages, one copywriter once wrote, "Fail the French test," and that is they say the word "we" too much. And so you get to the page, it goes, "We, us, company name, third person, company name in third person." And so don't do that. You remember who you're talking to. You're talking to the reader. And make it fun by lightening up. Try to inject storytelling elements. Try to use these powerful words that push emotional buttons. Ask questions, even rhetorical questions. I love that writing style. I think it keeps you engaged. It keeps your writing punchy. Introduce characters, back to storytelling. The character might actually be the reader. The character might be a client who just solved their problem, thanks to the host of the website and the services they offer. Speak to people's memories, their values, and their dreams, and use your sense of humor. Right? Pages that are boring generally have a very corporate speak, like that gobbledygook we talked about a few slides ago. How else can you overcome boredom? Well, a writer needs to write rhythmically. The metaphor often becomes about music, where phrases are not always the same length. If you make a short sentence and follow it up with a short sentence and follow it up with a short sentence again, you're not giving what you write rhythm. If you only write long sentences, you're also failing. Web copy needs to be skimmer friendly, and these are some tips to make it such. Brief opening paragraphs. There's a little psychology that goes on every time you get to a web page, and I'm thinking now in particular of the editorial variety, like a blog post. And the first paragraph's a couple hundred words, and you look at it, and you're not reading, you're just sort of staring, you're skimming, and you're going, ugh, Psychology says this is going to be work. I don't want to read it. Make your first paragraph brief, maybe even a sentence, and follow it with white space. So lots of paragraph breaks when you write online. Online writing and writing that somebody bought in the form of a magazine or a newspaper or a book are different animals, right? They went out of their way to hand over their money, and you can get away with what looks like, a fiction novel or even a nonfiction book. Any sort of writing that has real dense copy on paper doesn't translate perfectly to the web. It doesn't mean it has to. The copy actually has to change. The presentation of it has to change. Vary your sentence length. I mentioned that already. Write subheads. Use bullet lists and numbered lists. Put photos with captions, quotes. Whatever it takes to create that sort of skimmer-friendly environment for a reader who's got a short attention span.
Yeah, Barry Dorian had a quick question about humor. He works for a compliance company, and I guess when you're doing legal stuff, that's the one time you want to avoid entertaining. It's really the purpose is to inform.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think then out comes everybody who sells something that has, sort of a serious nature, which is probably, just as many product categories as those that don't. So I think, you're still, the topic again is the reader themselves, and that reader still has problems, and they're still human beings, and they still eat junk food, and they still have, noisy kids and broken cars and so forth.
Even if they are buying business insurance, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's human, and I think, if you think about great television commercials in the insurance industry, they're generally the funny ones. So there's always a little humor. I would not tell somebody, who has some sort of a marketing position in a super white collar environment and sell something that where there's compliance and risk and big money involved to be go out of your way to be comic. I don't know that that's I mean, use your humor in saying you Mr. Reader, you make mistakes, you have problems, and here's how you solve them. And I don't think we'd have to tackle that with looking at the page itself in one of your, what do you call those sessions that you do where you...
Yeah, your baby is ugly.
Yeah, where you review and sometimes shoot holes in pages. There's going to be a place to inject humor, so we're going to have to go offline and figure out where that is for that listener. But thanks for asking that question. But back to the element of boredom. And the dense first paragraph and a page that's 90% black type on a white background, or God forbid even worse, white type on a black background, is your copy stops working when it feels like work. It's like when you start thinking, Steve Jobs made this very clear, when you start thinking about design, that means design's getting in your way. The idea is to get out of the way, right? And so if somebody is thinking, yeah, I'm only halfway through this, they're going to stop. So your job is to make it fun. Let's move on to friction. Chapter 5, I guess. I think in the CRO business, probably we talk about this often, and if you've come to Site Tuners webinars before, you've probably heard this or some version of it, and that is desire minus friction equals conversion rate. Not to get too mathematical on you, but like we said, you come to a website because you want something, and the things that get in the way are your conversion killers. And so typically, if you can simplify that to all cases, the readers are looking for ease. They're looking for the simple and fast solution. Your job is to give it to them. Introduce ease. Assure readers that you're leading them down the fast and easy path. Even if what you're about to sell them is not fast and easy, you're going to make it faster and easier. And so some of the tricks of the trade from a copywriting point of view, these could be words or things, and I think of them mostly as things, is, here's a shortcut. Here's how we're going to fast track this. Here's a template. Here's a cheat sheet. Here's a checklist. We're going to make it so that you achieve what you're trying to achieve. You're overcoming that thing that kept you up last night faster than you ever possibly could anywhere else. And risk comes to mind. This little list here, as large as it is, if we've gone full screen, you can see gets a little pixelized, but hopefully you'll be able to make out these words and their examples, and they come from I think a page I got from HubSpot. I was thinking about the topic of risk because what if, what about me? What if, we just answered a question like that? Well, what if I'm in the compliance business? There's something always lingering in the reader's mind, and therefore as a writer, interested in increasing conversion, we need to introduce safety nets. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But here on this slide, I'm saying, choose your words carefully, and words like, money back and guaranteed and best-selling and cancel anytime. Some of the examples that I borrowed here from HubSpot make it clear what I'm trying to say is that, we recognize that you have fear, and we're here to help make the decision you're about to make fearless. Speak to the dream. I love this tip as a writer, especially as a blogger. Tim told you that I'm an author. I think he might have mentioned, he showed a slide with all the various places that I guest post, some cases, for promotional purposes, in some cases because I'm paid. But I love this as a tactic for writing blog posts and editorial style stuff. Speak to the dream. So help the reader imagine the satisfaction of realizing a positive outcome, which is really another form of using benefits, right? The headline that says how to quit your job and live the dream life on your own on your own. Word escapes me. On your own time, let's say that. Okay, not that great of an example, but what I mean is like you have a dream, and we're here to help you imagine that you're about to achieve it. You're about to have the positive outcome, the success headline, the success story. And so a great tactic is starting off with, I once had the same problem you're facing. That's how my book, Tim told you that I just finished my first short book about search engine optimization. That's how my book starts. I said, hey, it was just a few years ago, I realized I didn't know anything about search engine optimization, and maybe you have that problem right now. I'm with you, right? I can relate to you. Stay tuned. We're about to solve this problem. I love that as a writing tip. And overcome objections. So how coincidental. That book that I mentioned, Once Upon a Time, was a post. I mean, it still is, but the post was the most popular post I've ever written, so it inspired the book. And I use it as an example of a writer overcoming objections. Okay, so I'm going to introduce this sticky, gooky, often technical term called SEO, search engine optimization. And I envisioned that people would go, ick, technical, takes a long time. And so my headline says I've simplified it, and it says it's for short attention spans, maybe even a potty visit.
Okay, I'm backing off of that one.
Chapter 6, lack of trust. Obviously something we need to tackle in the conversion business. How do you overcome that as a writer? I'm going to show you some tactics that overcome it just as a page designer or a marketer, an online marketer. But as a writer, you overcome it by writing conversationally, and you do that by speaking casually and caring, like the example we just talked about. Like, I get it, this thing's bothering you. Being direct, being simple, and then in terms of like the education you received in high school and college about how to write something formal that will get you a good grade, we need to toss that aside too. Hopefully, the investment you made in your education did indeed make you a better communicator, but these are not term papers, and you're not going to be graded on grammar. That doesn't mean you should misunderstand grammar or you should spell stuff wrong. It means that you should break the rules. You can have sentence fragments, and ellipses and so forth, such that you write like you talk conversationally.
Very quick question while we're talking about writing. In the USA Today is famous for writing for a 5th grade reading level, is my understanding. Do you have a recommended kind of reading level that you should target, or does it depend on the audience?
Yeah, I've got that question a lot, and my answer is kind of unpopular. I think if you write at a 5th grade level, if your audience is in 5th grade, but you probably have to draw the line somewhere, and so maybe you write at an 8th grade level or a 9th grade level. You write at a level that people will understand without getting uncomfortable and leaving. And so therefore, the real lesson, it doesn't matter about the grade, is the real lesson is you don't write like an insider, like you're talking to somebody that also works side by side you with your company. And what a great segue that is to this slide and these examples that I'm going to show you now, because yeah, we're too close to it. I don't think that you go, well, I should write to you like you're in 5th grade, but as we learned on that game show, about Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader, they're pretty smart, so don't don't
Mine
disrespect.
is. Mine definitely is.
Yeah, they know more facts than we do, right? They
He
get
knows all 50 state capitals. I never knew that stuff.
Right. Well, in fifth grade, you probably did, but we only have so much room in our hard drive, so we dispel this stuff. But whatever grade and whatever tactic you're taking, write such that nobody can be confused. Maybe read it to a fifth grader. I don't know. I think you'll probably get some good feedback as a result of doing that. But I don't like the idea of dumbing it down. So if you're writing to a fifth grade level, don't think of your fifth grader as dumb. Think of them as outsiders who are not already in your industry, and they're probably not going to spend a lot of time even caring for your story or your industry. They're going to solve their problem and move on to the next one. So yeah, we talk too much like marketers because we're not listening to our customers. Watch this. This is fun. All right, first, Anne Hanley, who said this in her book, which is a Bible of sorts. It's called, what's it called? Everybody Writes. If you want to make a purchase that serves as a great read and then sort of a reference for writing in the age of online marketing, be sure to get Anne's book. Anne is the chief conversion officer, she calls herself, of Marketing Profs. And in that book, she says, develop pathological empathy for your customer. Just to, you can tell she's a great writer already just by the kind of the humorous use of the word pathological. But she's not kidding around. She's trying to plant the seed that you have to understand your reader if you're going to be successful, and you have to use the first and second person voice, meaning I am I, and you are you. Most importantly, the second person voice whenever you can. It really bugs me when you get to marketing copy and the reader is treated as some sort of third person, like they're called end user, or they're referred to by their title, marketing professionals or something like that. Now sometimes you have to do that, but as often as you can, use the word you. That's everybody's second favorite word, their first being their name, and so you can use their name too if you know it. Now here I am going to show you what I mean about writing too much like marketers and jargon. And some, you might agree these are great examples or not, but I think you're going to see my point. So here's a company also in I guess the gray space between marketing automation and CRM. It's getting grayer all the time. Probably this company called Autopilot would be more comfortable calling themselves what they do, marketing automation. In fact, it says that on the slide, so we'll go with that. So they're talking marketing speak here, create remarkable journeys, and Tim knows and I know that what they're talking about is what do they call it, buyer's journeys, right? But it's a little weird because I don't know what it means, and it gets even weirder when I'm looking at cat.
It's not like, what am I running an Amazon tour service? What is
yeah.
it?
Yeah, so you only really get it if you go onto the subhead. And so this to me is marketing jargon. I mean, it could get a lot worse, but if all I read was create remarkable journeys and I saw this leopard skin, I'm confused. And so I rewrote it for them, no charge. Finally, marketing automation software isn't a pain in the butt. And I left everything else alone because everything else is pretty good, but I know what category I'm in, and I know how this company stands out relative to their competition, because their competition software probably is a pain in the butt. Now you're thinking, what a remarkable writer Barry is. That's cool. That's a much more interesting headline. Well, here's the punchline. I got this from Joanna Wiebe. You guys have probably presented her ideas before. She digs in the dirt in Amazon reviews and forums and so forth, looking for how customers speak, because you want to enter their world. So forget for a second that, Mr. Barry Feldman is quite the writer. And understand, I didn't really write that headline. One of their clients did. I was digging around on Autopilot's website, and I found this guy named David. Obviously, they like what David had to say. They committed a whole page to his endorsement. And he says other solutions out there are a pain in the butt. So thanks, David. You wrote a better headline than I might have been able to come up with, and certainly what they chose to use on their homepage. Here I'm going to do the same trick again, and I'm going to stay in the same realm, marketing automation software. This is one of the many players in that business called Acton, and their very boring headline says, empower your sales and marketing teams. Big words, sounds kind of generic. I don't know what it means. Everything that follows sounds kind of nasty, and the image is confusing to me. I suppose to people that know what those icons mean, it's not, and perhaps it's understood that you know what Microsoft Azure is. But I wrote a better headline for them, or at least same trick here. I'm going to say that I helped create a better headline for them. It says, hand hot leads over to your sales team fast. Now, again, before you go saying, boy, that Barry guy can write, same trick. Dug around in their website until I found something that a client said. And their client at Lego Education said, we're able to hand over hot leads to our sales team to generate sales more quickly. Well, that's the story, right? That's what marketers want. That's how marketers get raises and bonuses and keep their jobs and get promoted to CMO, is they create leads and they make them actionable for the sales team. Finally, let's see, what chapter was I on? Trust, I guess. Yeah, it makes sense that I'm on trust. One of our friends, and always a great example of a company that does great conversion rate optimization, is Kissmetrics. That it's because just about everything they do is tested, and I probably shouldn't even say just about everything they do. I think everything they do is tested, and so a great example, courtesy of Kissmetrics, of how to populate a page with social proof. There's lots of ways to do it, and they've done 3 of them here. One is they have a testimonial. It's not a made-up one. It's not, customer. We know exactly who it is, and if you see his picture, we can find him on LinkedIn if we want. Then we have the line that says 1,600 companies use their product, and then we have some proof in the form of logos. And so these stories appear true, and they offer what Robert Cialdini spoke about in his book Influence, that people like to go with the crowd, so offer proof to build trust. And finally, hope I save time for Tim to do what he's going to do and make you guys a special offer today, and then for me to stick around and answer some of your questions. But finally, Chapter 7, Mystery, is the final cause of discomfort, and it really brings us around to full circle, because if it's redundant, it's very redundant with the idea of confusion. We don't want to confuse people, like I said at the top of this presentation, and we want to overcome that with clarity and straightforward headlines, nor do we want them to be lacking for an understanding of what we want them to do, right? We don't want any confusion. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the clarity in terms of action. What do we want them to do is called the call to action. Now, Buffer is another company that knows what they're doing, and they A/B tests their pages such that they, rather than basing their decisions on opinions, which old school marketers do, they base their decisions on actions, the actions that they measure. And so I'm sure this was once upon a time pitted against another page with another call to action. Buffer says, with ultra clear directions, it's the easiest way to save time on social media. And what a great button that is. Some people might have thought, ooh, that's a lot of words for a button. Shouldn't it say submit or click here? Well, those are not very interesting actions. Their action item here that removes all the mystery says start scheduling posts on social media. Absolutely beautiful call to action. No mystery what they want me to do. They want me to save time with social media, and they told me. Here I speak to the idea that when you fill up a page with lots of different choices, now in some cases you get into your home page, and your home page sort of is your lobby, right? And so it has to sort of have the direction map, and so it's the hardest page to make have a singular choice. But on other pages where you are trying to get somebody to attend something, register, fill something out, try something, buy something, you give them more than one choice, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot in terms of conversion. There's an inverse relationship between the number of choices people are offered and the choice they ultimately make. And so this page from Asana says, we want you to move your work forward, give us your email address. That's all there is to it. There's nowhere to click. There's no getting out of here. There's not even another logo or a navigation bar, which is a great tactic, of course, for landing pages. And then I think this is the last tip here. I'm full screen, so I can't see I don't have the next slide preview, but I'm wrapping it up here. I love this tip that, and I mentioned this, I guess, with Buffer's page, that you use action words. A lot of writers, they write a little fluffy, and this probably does come from college education or high school writing courses where they overuse adjectives. Usually if you go back to your first draft, you'll improve it by removing adjectives and adding verbs. We want conversion. Conversion is an action. Use compelling verbs. There's several examples here, and most of them are on this page. Look at this, 4 in a row. If your eye goes to the center of this page, which is very well designed, by the way, in terms of moving your eye towards that blue button, it says start, and the next line says take care, and then the next line says get on their button, and then finally, as another choice, contact. action verbs are going to get people to take action. This idea, I didn't know where to stick it. sort of flying around, if you will, all throughout the presentation. Is what I want to say is, we use the word landing page a lot. Tim wrote a book about it, and when you go to a conversion conference and you work with site tuners, it's always a part of the conversation. But sometimes a page, and certainly a blog post is one of them that comes to mind. Its idea is to lead you somewhere, and so I like to plant the seed that if you're not creating a landing page, you're creating a leading page, and therefore the moral of that story is no page goes on your website without a purpose, and so that purpose can be go here next, which is leading the reader. So there you go, 7 chapters. Your job now as a writer is to make people comfortable by overcoming confusion, avoiding distraction, foiling apathy, eluding boredom, preventing friction, displacing lack of trust, and removing mystery. My name is Barry. My company is Feldman Creative. If you want to come learn more about the things that I write about, which include copywriting a lot and conversion fairly often too, I'm at feldmancreative.com. I hope, while I've challenged the idea of what conversion actually is, that you understand more now than you did 45 minutes ago about getting your readers, your prospects, people that once were strangers and now are in your home on the web, your website. I hope you've learned something about making them feel good so they take action here and now. And I'm going to shuffle it back to Tim, who has some stuff to tell you.
All right, fantastic. Well, Barry, also wanted to thank you for sharing all that. We've gotten some good questions already in the question pane. We're going to throw it open to Q&A, so ask Barry anything. Please type your questions into the question pane, and I'll select some to ask Barry. Before we do that, just wanted to finish up with a couple of things. If you're interested in having us do what I call Your Baby is Ugly Light, a free conversion review of your landing page or website, please reach out to us. You can see the terms of the offer there, but if you're not already a client and you're big enough, basically we're interested in helping you out. That is a case-sensitive URL, the bit.ly link that you see down there, bit.ly CRO review. So I don't know how many slots we have open for this webinar, but we take them in first come, first serve basis. So please just jot that down, bit.ly.com, CRO review, capital CRO. Also, folks like Barry and some of the other folks he's mentioned on this presentation, in fact, a worldwide community of over 750 conversion rate optimizers, people from copywriting, user experience, visual design, neuromarketing, behavioral economics, the whole field of conversion rate optimization, testing, user-centered design, comes together in Las Vegas this May, and right now through I think the end of January we still have this double early bird pricing, 2-day 4-track conference, fantastic activities and an opportunity to share with some very giving and open speakers and attendees. So check it out, conversionconference.com. Barry's been a speaker. You're going to have 40 other top experts to talk to as well, and some pre-conference workshops. All right, so let's take a look at what questions are coming in right now, Barry, and I'll give you a few of them. One of the kind of questions that we're looking at here is, are there any common errors, this is Noah asking, common errors people make when writing copy specifically for product pages? We covered a lot of lead generation examples. What about, say, e-commerce product pages?
Yeah. First question I'm going to pose myself. Should I part with $897 to go to Conversion Conference? Yes, 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 hell yes. It's my favorite conference I ever went to. 2 years ago, I was an emergency fill-in speaker. I learned so much, and that's why it was my favorite, the people I met and the people I listened to. I was supposed to speak last year, in fact, about the thing I just presented, and I hurt myself just in time, but I will be there this May, right?
We're very much looking forward to having you back. Yeah, middle of May, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do anything the months before. I'm not going to hurt myself. So yeah, a very small price to pay for what will be the the most valuable 3 days of your professional career. Okay, so yeah, I think product pages. It's always a little tough to talk about product pages because that's where you talk about your products. So you kind of to some extent have to sort of violate the you can't talk about yourself. But why do people want your products? The answer is it solves a problem. So if you went to the top, from top to bottom of your product page, and you saw sort of a commonality of mistakes people make on that page, it's still just too company centric, and it's still too, it fails the French test again, too we. So
and
read that
and too much stuff about features. I mean, I can chime in this because we're working on a project right now with one of our e-commerce clients, and they sell spy gear, nanny cams, GPS tracking devices, download the text from your cell phone kind of stuff. And you know what? Whether someone wants to track their Alzheimer's parent from wandering off, or their teenage driver, or catch their cheating spouse, they're in very, very different mindsets. So to say, how does your product map onto their needs? I'd say that's always the place to start. This is perfect for catching cheating spouses. All you need is access to their phone, stick this stick in, and you can download all their texts.
Yeah, that's I want to work on that account, by the way. That sounds like fun. But yeah, if you're writing that, we say, do you suspect your spouse is cheating on you? Well, that's what you were tossing and turning about last night, especially if she wasn't in the same bed.
Hey. Or
so
he.
Yeah, so the point, that product page is still about the user and his insecurities, his pleasures, and his pains, and so you got to leave them wanting more, not less, right? And so you're going to tell them about your product, and that's that gobbledygook feature stuff that Tim's saying remove. That's probably going to go live on your website somewhere. You're not going to want to deprive people of understanding the features, but you want them to want more after reading that first product page.
Okay, and then Barry, someone asked your company name, feldmancreative.com. So just go visit the website. Okay, let's see. Is there somebody is asking something kind of a little orthogonal. Ted was asking about video. How does video and the words in video play into this kind of copywriting angle? How long should videos be, for example?
Well, I've written a lot about video, and a new client of mine is one of the leaders in video. That's one of those, it depends, how big should your house be, and how fast should your car go.
How long should your copy be?
Generally speaking, I think, the closer that video is to the beginning of the experience and the buyer journey, if you will, the answer is the shorter it should be. Again, just like a copy on a page, leave them wanting more. I think you'll find an explainer video or a high-level product video or meet our company video is going to be a lot more successful at a 2 to 3 to 5 minute clip than it would be if it was webinar length. But this webinar is about to be archived. It's going to be an hour long, therefore it becomes a video, and it has its place and purpose too. And so
but I think well, this is just content, if you will. Hopefully we're trying to, educational stuff can be longer, but TED Talks are limited to 20 minutes. Everything I've read says there's a basic attention reset that happens at the 7 to 8 minute mark. So if you're going much below that, you're going to have to kind of do a jump start and get me woken up before you tell me anything else. So I think even 20 minutes is way too long for videos. It should be 8 minutes or under for the vast majority of stuff you're doing, and most stuff in the 90-second or under range if it's supposed to persuade or focus on a micro conversion.
Yeah, definitely. And when you listen to a great speaker, you'll notice that they never go 7 or 8 minutes without telling a personal story. So that's the reset button. So there's no perfect answer except for to examine the context. But certainly it brings up an interesting subject, and that is that video is very popular. The internet is becoming a window into sort of a television-like experience, and most people that are interested in selling off the page are investing in video now. And the conversion rates, when handled by people that know how to make video, are off the charts. Landing pages and emails that offer video. I mean, there's just a lot of statistics about video. So I would definitely say if you haven't tried it, try it, and start with shorter videos. Video analytics will show you when people exit, and so that usually means that's when they got bored.
Right, or you have a problem with the video at that point. One quick final question from Charlie. Do you use a thesaurus? Sorry, I didn't mean to lisp there.
It's hard to say the word without lisping. Do I use a thesaurus? But I can't believe all the years I've been writing, nobody's ever asked me that. I do. I mean, I think you right-click with most software, and it gives you word options. So like you recall that I was saying, use power words where you can and use action verbs where you can. And so, you might, a call to action might say get, and where you could make it stronger by saying seize or command or something like that. So yeah, bust out your thesaurus, whether it's on paper or electronic, and it'll help you. But don't go looking, don't settle on a word that people are going to have to then get out the dictionary for. So
right, and also like the juxtaposition of two words. I forget what the pathological empathy, I believe, was Anne Hadley's term.
Yeah,
that's a great. So sometimes the words themselves are particularly interesting, but sticking two of them together will create this kind of weird tension between them and resonance, or go, oh, that's curious, and that attention reset, again, just like with the video length we were talking about, can often have a very powerful effect. So think about what you can put next to each word or juxtapose it against.
Yeah, pathological empathy, great example. I mean, Anne's very funny, and she's talking a serious subject, so it's a good topic, to return again to that conversation of, can we inject humor? She knows that you're reading a thick volume in the case of her writing books or many of the things she writes, and so she uses her sense of humor a lot.
Well, Barry, I want to thank you very much for oversharing with us. I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar as much as I enjoyed hosting it. And again, happy holidays to everyone. Take advantage of the early bird special for Conversion Conference, and we'll see you on the flip side.